Hello, welcome back to the Sustainable Network of the World. I truly need your help right now, and so do millions of people all across the world. We have a real shot at fixing this planet, and I'm here today to tell you we have a real plan. The Sustainable Network of the World, or what I like to call SNOW, is a free public database where every person on the planet could post any need or want they might have onto maps and graphs. With this tool, we could see every person that shares the same need, and we could coordinate together to solve our issues. We could outwork our problems, and this is the future, and you're all invited to join. So please like, comment, share, and of course subscribe. It obviously helps our channel grow, but it helps us all get the things that we want and need. So far we have tackled the past, present, and future of water, food, and shelter, but today we're going to go over healthcare. But first, let's dive into our history, because there's no greater teacher. The oldest example of people practicing healthcare that I could find comes from shamans and medicine men. Now, there's a very big difference between these two that I want to make sure gets pointed out. A shaman is any religious healer that works through prayer and faith. A medicine man tries to heal through herbs and chemicals. I guess you could say one operates through science and the other operates through religion and mythology. Those two have not been mutually exclusive though, and have only been distinguished as separate practices in recent times. So people were doing them, at the same time. Healers would often do both. When prayer and medicine fails, we get death. Early tribes and cultures often turn to burial. The oldest mummies that we know of are 9,400 years old, but they're naturally mummified by the climate. And the oldest man-made mummies that we know of are from around 5050 BCE to 3000 BCE in South America. It's crazy to think that the Egyptians either got it from them or they started around the same exact time. The earliest Egyptian mummy is around 3000 BCE. They saw the first processes of mummification as dead bodies that were found in the dry, arid sands of the desert. All across the world, we had ancestor worship. People would literally prop up their loved ones, their deceased family members, in their homes. So as you can imagine, with this type of behavior going on, it's really hard to know who performed the first human dissection. In fact, dissections seem to have been outlawed for much of our history, and one of the earliest records that we have on account comes from a gentleman named Galen, who was a Roman. He wrote a series of beers based on care of wounds from gladiators and dissections from pigs and Barbary apes, whose psychologies are similar to ours. Throughout history, people have sold fake medicine. Knowing exactly when this started is impossible. And I'm not sure shamans don't fall into this category, right? One of the most prevalent examples I could find in history are the snake oil salesmen. The traveling doctors would sell medicine using fake credentials. The medicine would often be placebos or weird pseudoscience-backed cures, and then they'd jet out of town. As you can imagine, it puts a strain on the doctor-client relationship. Now you have to question whether they're there for profit or whether they're actually there to help. This dirty practice evolved into a true horror over the years, the selling of organs, blood, and much darker things. The Black Death was another interesting point in history. The rich left the major cities for the countrysides. Father, mother, brother, sister abandoned one another. They knew it spread by breath, so they found distance and seclusion to help, but they completely missed the concept of bacteria. About 50 to 75% of the major cities got wiped out. Church bishops that did help quickly got infected and died off. The rest hid away. Religious fervor took the land, and fanatics blamed the sins of the people. Zealots called flagellants whipped themselves through the streets. They would throw after parties because the women, I guess, would get all whooped up because they, nope, I gotta say this. They would throw after parties because the women in town would be all hyped up after seeing their bloody, sweaty bodies. They would be outlawed many times throughout history for being religious fanatics, but made a comeback in the 16th century. Crowds would often turn to violence, and in 1348 in Germany, they turned on their Jewish population in a purge of hate and discrimination. As you could see, history repeats itself sometimes. The diseases the Europeans brought to the native lands also killed around 90% of their population. This is one of, if not possibly, the biggest loss of human life that we know of in history by size and the percentage. This was also the first known case of biological warfare because in some cases, the disease blankets were spread on purpose. They knew the blankets were infected and they gave them to the people anyways. They also knew that they had no immunity. Okay, whatever. Moving on. Side note, didn't it work the other way around? Just a hunch, but I think it did. I'm interested though, so let me know in the comments. The Red Cross was a big step in medical science and came into being by a man named Henry Durant in 1859, and in 1928 Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin and started its development. Now we have the current problem with people profiting off of cures and vaccines, surgeries, pharmaceuticals, the snake oil salesmen, they're still out there. WTF. Business has fully infected the medical industry. I'm only going to use one point here in a second, and I'm going to be intentionally short on this because there's so many cases that I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. So what do? Volunteers are the only way to ensure that the cures, doctors, and staff are there for you. Remember, 1/3 of America donated 4 hours every week, and that's the wealthiest country in the world. We could beat that. Alright, for that great example of scarcity being profitable, we have the bad man Martin Shkreli. I don't care. This guy managed to get a monopoly on the insulin. I don't know if you guys have heard about that dilemma, but it's a big deal. He skyrocketed the prices 5,000%. We don't even know how many people this greed killed. We want to outproduce these bad businessmen with good volunteers. We want piles of cures laying around. Piles. This world is built on max profits, max business. Even our non-profits have to make a profit. Volunteerism has been edged out. Doing things that the society needs or wants is an afterthought. But at the same time, we can fix that. With our world mapping and graphing its needs, we will no longer work for ourselves, but for the betterment of humankind. And in fact, we could do both. The option to work for ourselves and the public should always be available. So if the planet can map diseases in real time on a public database, we can place our resources in the correct spots where these will benefit the most people. We can do strategic lockdowns instead of nationwide or global lockdowns. Of course, it is up to every individual whether they share or not, and that's the beauty of it. It's all done by choice. We either help ourselves or we don't. Let the good rise. Alright, all this ties in perfectly with anti-aging and even solving death. I personally believe that we have the tech and the skill to do something about this right now. The fear of disease is something every human shares, and we should do everything in our power to stop these terrible plagues. For the people that want to pursue those aims peacefully, they can now work together on a global scale. A person's preference should always be our priority. We should have the freedom to follow each of our faiths and customs as long as we do not hurt anyone else. If a person wants to die and go to heaven with their loved ones, who are we to stop them? And so let's flip that for a second. Who has the right to stop us from choosing to live as long as we possibly can? Through science and medical advancements, there's no reason we couldn't live to 245 or 300. Maybe for forever. We have a huge problem with private companies competing for profit instead of working together for a cure. This is our chance to fix this. By mapping and graphing our needs, gathering volunteers that truly want to help humanity, we will outwork and solve our greatest problems together. Right now, we are on the cusp of discovering incredible cures for aging. Biologically, we're this close, and at the same time, we're getting super close with something called neural tech, right? You see a couple businesses involved in this. This is the future. This will make everyone be able to back up and store their consciousness at light speed. You get hit by a car, whoop, instantly teleported into a virtual environment or a clone. This is the future we're talking about now. That's where things are heading. Let's take a deep dive into the possible future. Who has seen or heard of the Borg in Star Trek? This is a dystopian version, a failed attempt to create a super consciousness, but instead they lost their free will. They lost their individuality. I don't see or think that's our destiny. As having the ability to be a part of the consciousness or be independent would seem to be a benefit. Why would you put all of your eggs in one basket? Doesn't make any sense. Something like a virus could wipe it all out. That's why I think it'll be more of like a log in, log out type scenario. You could choose to be a part of it, or you could step out and do something else. And while we're plugged in, we can get access to the public hub, but when we want to step out, we just sign out. No biggie. Easy fix, right? I think we'd be able to check out these bodies and explore the universe. I hope. Sail the stars, surf the waves. You can imagine it. I believe it's possible. And these ideas are actually pretty old. They just needed the means to pull them off. Snow can do it. Do you want to live forever? Do you want to experience as much out of life as possible? I know I do. Alright guys, so with that, let's wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, comment, and of course subscribe. It all helps the channel grow, but it helps us all get the things that we truly want and need. Please go check out sustainablenetworkoftheworld.com. You can support the channel through GoFundMe. There are links on the top of my channel. Get out there, buy some clothes, go to the store. Nobody's buying anything with the damn inflation. Next episode, we're going to slay education. I'm sorry, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into like the technicalities of, RNA, DNA, telomeres, things like that. I might do a mini episode. LPJRG, out.